Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us for the B session of the DP0 Virtual Summer School. I see a couple of people here who are going to get a repeat performance by me. Sorry about that. But yeah, today we are going to start out with just some very basic introduction to the tools that we use to access Rubin Observatory data. After that, we're actually going to go to a pretty advanced tutorial, but one that shows you another of our tools. Hopefully you've all had a chance to sort of poke around and see the tutorials that are available and log into the science platform. But if not, that's also totally fine. You can follow along as we're going right now. And you can use the Slack space that we've created for chatting in real time, or of course the Zoom chat. There are lots of organizing committee members here who can help me monitor those things. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Jeff Carlin. I work for the Rubin Community Science team. We are the team that has put together the Data Preview 0, or I guess is putting together the part that's presented to you and organizing events such as this. Wanted to introduce the organizing committee to you, some of whom are here. From the community science team, there are 5 of us. There's me, Gloria, Melissa, Ryan, and Douglas. And then we have 4 DP0 delegates who are on the organizing committee for this meeting. Those are Louise, Nandini, Vincenzo, and Fabio. And then 2 other community science team members who will also be presenting this week are Greg and Tina, who you see pictured here. So any of us, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to seek any of us out at any time. I wanted to leave this slide with some resources for you so that it is available to you after this presentation is over. So these slides have been posted in the general channel in the Slack space. So if you haven't had a chance, one thing I strongly recommend, well, first off, if you haven't signed up for Slack, actually, let me just copy this address and put it into the chat right now. In case you haven't signed up for the Slack space and would like to, this should take you there. And I will note that we've created a separate Slack channel for each session. So for today, there will be a session B Monday Slack channel. So you can have discussion and ask questions in that channel as well. I want to recommend, if you haven't already, we're going to just dive right into learning about the tools for how you access Rubin data and how to work with the data. We're not going to talk much about Rubin Observatory or Data Preview 0. So if you want a little introduction to that, I recommend this short 13-minute YouTube video that's linked here. That was from one of the kickoff sessions for the Data Preview 0 initial rollout. And there are other resources noted here, useful links, including the community forum, which is a place you can discuss and ask for help. The link to the science platform, which you'll be using a lot, the link to the DP0.2 website. And another thing that I wanted to make sure I include is the GitHub organization for Rubin Data Preview 0. So this has not only, if I break out of here, this has not only the tutorial notebooks that will make up most of the material of this summer school, but so you can see here, those tutorial notebooks are all located here. And the convenient thing here is there's a brief summary, a brief description of what each of them contains, so you can get a sort of an overview. And then there's actually a more detailed description if you scroll way down of the specific sort of skills you'll work on in each of these, sort of what level they're targeted at, and the packages and the types of activities you'll be doing. So that's a really useful resource when you're trying to remember, oh, I saw that thing one time. Which notebook was that in? This will help you with those kind of things. The other thing I wanted to point out here that could be a really valuable resource is the delegate contributions repository. This is where delegates like you have done some science exploration and have committed their notebook in a nice cleaned up way to this repository so that you and everybody else can benefit from that. And so you can see there's a variety of topics here, from photometric redshifts to looking at variable stars to looking at difference imaging, or the truth tables, the backgrounds, and all kinds of things like that. So if you click on one of these, you'll see that each of them might have more than one notebook in it. And there should be a table that explains briefly what each of those notebooks does and who contributed it. So these are an excellent resource as you're exploring things. People are sharing what they learned as they were exploring so that you can build off of that. Okay, and the last link that I wanted to point out, there are two links that describe the DC2 Data Challenge 2 data set, which is a simulated data set that makes up the Data Preview 0 data that you'll be working with. So if you have questions about what went into the simulations, what types of objects you'll find there, these are the two papers that can give you that information. We're in session B. There we are. So introduction and announcements are complete. Now I'm going to take you through a brief introductory notebook, just showing you some very basics, which we'll build on as the week goes on. After that, Douglas will present some really cool stuff about interactive catalog visualization. We'll have a brief break, and then we'll get to know each other a little better and sort of brainstorm some ideas for projects or explorations people might want to work on during the rest of this week's summer school. Yeah, Tina, you're muted.
Just wanted to remind everybody that we have a pre-class survey that we would like you to take. I put the link in the chat window. So if you could please do that for us, that'd be great. Thank you.
And there will be another brief survey at the end so that we can find out from you how things went. Okay, so onward. Okay, so actually I should show you it first in case anyone hasn't already logged into the science platform. To do so, when you go to data.lsst.cloud, you should see a landing page like this. We'll talk more about the portal aspect during other sessions this week. That is a place where you can, I'll just show you a brief glimpse of it. This is a place where you can interactively query tables and view images and tables and work with them in the portal. Oops, sorry, the window just disappeared. There we go. We'll come back to the portal later, but for now, we're going to focus on the notebook aspect. So if you click this giant box, this will take you to the notebook aspect. I'm actually going to kill that one that I just launched because I already am logged in over here, but just wanted to show you the interface. Okay, and when you first log in, you probably will not see a whole bunch of folders there. You'll see one that's called Notebooks that everybody should have. So look for notebooks, and then within that, there are 2 folders. Tutorial notebooks contains all of the tutorials that we'll be going through this week. And they're always there, and whenever we update them, they will automatically update to your user space. One thing I wanted to note as well, I think it's in the README as well. So yeah, the note here is reminding us that this is a read-only folder. So if you want to experiment with changing things or adding things to these notebooks, we recommend that you first copy the notebook to a different folder and work on it there. That way you can save your changes and access them later. So we're going to go through Notebook 1, Introduction to DP0.2, which I have copied to a folder for the virtual summer school. Okay, so to open it, we'll just double click. Here we are, and then you can click this folder icon to minimize that browser over on the side. And I'll zoom just a little bit to make the font more readable. Does that look pretty good? Great, thanks. Okay. So this is going to start out really basic. And so if you really like totally new to Jupyter Notebooks and everything, we're starting you there. It'll be kind of a quick whirlwind, but we're going to show you how to work with the notebook environment, how to read catalogs or to access catalogs via the tab service, and then we'll show you how to load an image and display that. And then all of those are skills that we'll develop more during the week. So we'll skip down here too. Okay. I'm going to go kind of fast because this is just sort of like an intro that we'll build on as we go. Okay, so Jupyter Notebooks. This is a Jupyter Notebook you're looking at in case you're not familiar. Everything is done in cells. So there's these rectangular boxes that are cells. You can, in any of these cells, you can enter Markdown, basically to make a nice looking formatted thing like this. There you can see it's Markdown. And if I execute it, then it looks like this. You can enter code, Python code in this case, because we're using a Python kernel. And you can enter raw text, which I actually don't know what the purpose of that is. It basically does nothing. I guess for notes, perhaps. And the way you can change that is if I go here and add a cell by clicking that plus, you can see it defaulted to code, but there's a drop down here. So I can make it a Markdown cell if I want, or a raw cell, and then say this. And when I execute it, it just stays like that. And I'm going to delete it again. The most important thing to remember, if this is new to you, is how you execute a cell. Because if I just click enter after I've typed all this, that doesn't execute the cell. So what you need to remember is to hold the shift key and then click enter. The other way you can do it, besides shift enter, is if you like to mouse around and click buttons, this plus button will do the same. So remember, shift enter. And so you can see this had a code block in it. And another important part of this is that it has this hashtag at the beginning of the first 2 lines, which makes those comments so they are not executable. So you have 2 comments, and then you tell it print hello world, and it does. The other example here is this Markdown cell, which you can see looks like this. And when you double click on it, it opens up and you can see the Markdown that comes out looking all formatted nice. And of course, we already showed you that the raw cell does nothing. Fed, the answer to your question about whether other kernels besides Python are available in the RSP is that I don't think they are currently. And it's an idea that I've heard floated, and I don't know yet whether we're going to support that later or not. But I know it's possible to support other kernels. Okay, I'm going to skip by these details or skip through them really quickly. Some things, these are important things to know. For example, if you accidentally execute some query that's going to return 100 million results, and you don't want to wait forever and you just want to kill it, there are a couple of ways you can do that. You can always use this stop button at the top, and that should stop whatever cell is executing. Or you can go to the kernel menu and say restart the kernel. If you want it to clear all of the outputs from previously executed cells, you can do that. If you ever want to just run all of the cells in your notebook, you can also restart the kernel and run all cells. That will execute the whole notebook all the way through. You can also do that by clicking this run menu at the top and say, run all cells, run the cell that I'm in plus all the ones below it, various things like that. I mentioned a kernel. The kernel is just the pod that you're working in with some computing packages loaded. In this case, it's a Python kernel, as we mentioned. So, whenever you restart the kernel, it's going to erase all of the variables and things that you've initialized. So sometimes that's really helpful in debugging, just to start with a clean slate. But just so you know that that's what it is going to do. The table of contents for the notebook lives over here on the side in this little hamburger menu. If you want to see what you're in for as we continue. And one final thing to note is, remember when you logged into the science platform, you had to select which version of the science pipelines you were going to use. That information always shows at the bottom of the window. As you can see here, it says weekly 2023_21. So when we, sometimes if you're having an issue with a notebook, check what version that notebook has last been tested with, and make sure you're running that same version. Often that'll be the cause of an issue that you might have. We also show you a quick way here that you can display from a code cell what version you're using. All right, so now we're going to do some Python stuff. We need to import the software packages, the Python packages that have all the tools we want to use. In this case, we're going to use some very standard astronomy data analysis related packages. We're going to use NumPy, which I think stands for numerical Python. It's just working with arrays, doing standard computations. Matplotlib is a plotting library. Pandas is a more efficient sort of tabular data tool that works much better with large data sets. And there's AstroPy, which is a standard astronomy package that has lots of tools that you'll see us using throughout the notebooks that you'll see. And then finally, any package that you see with LSST dot something at the beginning is from the LSST science pipelines. So these are things written by and for the project. And so the way you import those is you just say import NumPy, import Matplotlib. You can also note that you can also rename it so that when I want to use matplotlib.pyplot, I don't have to type all of that. I can say import it as PLT. And then when I want to make a plot, I just say plt.plot. So this is just the cell to import all of the tools that we're going to use. And now we have them all imported. You can do things like display which version of each one you're using. Probably most importantly, one thing you can do is, let's say for the package NumPy, I want to know what methods that contains. If I type NumPy dot and then I hit a tab, you see this list of all of the methods associated with that appear. And so this says, okay, there's an absolute value function. I don't know, we'll scroll way down just for fun. There's a make an array of all ones or all zeros or calculate percentiles. There's the value for pi, for example. Anyway, this shows you all of the things that are available. You can't execute it like this with just the dot there. If I do that, that's not valid syntax. But if I say pi dot pi, it displays the value of pi. Another way you can look at the help is just, or look at the contents of one of these is by using the help function. So if I do help NumPy, you'll see actually an incredibly long set of documentation. And so, you need some light reading. There you go. Where'd it go? Let's uncomment that so we can get to the good stuff. So these tips are here for if it's all new to you. Hopefully that'll help you get started a little bit. Okay, so the main way of accessing catalog data products, catalogs with all of the measurements of sources, is going to be using the TAP service, the Table Access Protocol. This is a standardized astronomical catalog access tool that uses a language called ADQL, which is like SQL if you're familiar with database stuff. So if you do know some SQL, a lot of these, the syntax of this will look familiar to you. But all of the catalog data from Rubin data products will be stored in databases that you will access via this TAP service. And so we imported this up above. So to start the TAP service, we just use this get TAP service function and point it to the TAP database. All that does is initialize the service so that now we can go and set up a query and execute it. There's a lot of information here showing you or telling you more detail about what I'm going to just show. So if I uncomment all of these lines, you can see what we're doing here is we're just going to say select these attributes from this table, or from the list of tables, I should say. And then that query, we just pass that to the service.search. And that returns a table that we then turn into a nice pandas formatted table because it's easier to read that way and display it. And so, oops. So if I do that, remember holding shift and clicking enter, you see that we have a list of all the tables that are available. There are a whole bunch here. The ones that you are going to want are the DP0.2 catalogs. You can see that the old DP0.1 catalogs are still available, but the DP0.2 is what you should work with for now. And you can see we have all kinds of, we have object table source, forced source, difference image analysis, and all kinds of other tables, including truth tables as well, because remember, it's a simulated data set. So that shows you what tables are there. Next, this says, okay, for one of those tables, the object table, show me the columns that are there, because I want to know how to find out what that contains. So we just displayed those, and you can see it has a bunch of information about that table. What we want is column names, so then we can know what all of the data columns are in the table. And so then we can move on to the next query where we say, select the column name and the data type and the description of that column from that same object table. And then here we don't print all the columns immediately, because as you can see, we count them, and there are 991 columns in the object table. We can look at them if you like. Here we are. This lists you all 991, but you can see it back to the column name. If it has units, for example, the RA and dec are in degrees, where some of those fluxes are always in nanojanskis. We'll learn more about that later. And it gives you some description of each column. Let's comment that out so we can get to the other stuff. Okay, so then once you've returned that, if you want to sort of search within what you've retrieved, you can do what we do here, where we say, okay, I only want things that have the phrase C model flux in them. And so then this is just looping over all the results in that table, over the column name and the description, you can see. And then if it finds this string in it, then it prints it. And so this should only show me columns that have that, that have C model flux in them. You can still see it's quite a few. But you could do that with any other. I don't know. I could also change this, and maybe I want the PSF flux instead. There you go. That'll list. So now you know that the I-band PSF flux from the forced photometry is this I_PSF flux. And there are a few. Okay. And then once you know what the columns all mean, now you want to go get the data so that you can do your science. So one really important thing to remember is this first tip that's given here, because the databases that are underlying all of this are actually sharded spatially, meaning they're optimized so that queries based on position, RA and DEC, will be the fastest queries. So you're going to get a lot faster result usually if you use constraints based on the right ascension and declination. So keep that in mind. If you ever have a query that doesn't seem like it should be that huge, but it's taking a long time, it might be because of that. Another thing that you'll want to keep in mind often is that if you just select a small number of rows just to make sure your query is doing what you want, that'll be a lot more efficient at first, and then you can do a larger query afterwards. So you'll see demonstrations of this in just a sec. And another thing that you'll see a lot is this flag called detect is primary. This is, you usually want to say detect is primary equals true, because that will, for example, in the overlapping regions between adjacent patches, that will remove all of the duplicate detections of the same source, and various other quality things that you might want. So you'll see that detect is primary used a lot. One other note is that the measurements in catalogs are always stored in units of flux. Flux is particularly in nanojanskis. So this has the, this shows you the conversion from flux in nanojanskis to AB magnitudes. And so you'll see this in just a second. This is a way you can calculate that once you've returned fluxes from your query. Or there's also an ADQL function that you can use to tell it, go ahead and convert that from nanojanskis to AB mags and return it with this name. So you can do that so that you don't have to do the conversion afterward. Okay, so let's query some data. The first example here, we're just going to pick, this is just an RA and DEC coordinate, 62 degrees minus 37 degrees. We'll define that. And then we're not sure exactly whether this is the query we want, but we want to test it out. Let's just say select the top 10 results. And then we tell it, select the top 10 values from these columns. So the coordinates that detect as primary flags, some fluxes, and an extendedness flag. And we want it from the object table. And then you see we use a spatial constraint. We say where a circle of radius 0.01 degrees contains this point, that point that we just defined. And then we say where this statement, the circle contains that point equals 1 means is true. And then we pass this string that we've set up to the service.search and then convert it to a table. Okay, now you have a table, and this just demonstrates doing that conversion from flux to AV magnitude and assigning it to a new column in the table. And here's what you get. So you can see all of the values. You can see the magnitude that we've calculated has been added to the table over here. So that was great. So now you're like, okay, that's what I wanted exactly. Now I'm ready to go ahead and get 10,000. So now let's select the top 10,000. And then this time, actually go ahead and use that function I showed you before to convert them to magnitudes. And again, we're using, in this case, where the points lie within 1 degree of that coordinate in a circle 1 degree radius. And you can see also then we say where that is true and a bunch of other things. So here we say extendedness equals 0. That just means it's not extended. It should be like a star. If extendedness equals 1, that's an extended object, a galaxy. We put some constraints on. We only want things that are brighter than some magnitude, so we put some flux constraints. And then when you execute this, you see we printed the length of it. Sure enough, it gave us back 10,000 objects. And then we can see what that looks like. So you can see again, it got us back the magnitudes that we asked for, coordinates. You can see also that it doesn't show you all 10,000 rows. It truncated for display. So if you want to manipulate it a little more, you can use this function that's associated with that table to convert it to a pandas data frame. That will make it a little easier. And if you're not familiar with pandas data frames, you can go back and check these out later. These just show you how to display what columns are available in that data frame and to display the values only from one column, for example. But in the interest of time, I'm just going to zoom forward, and we're gonna actually make a color magnitude diagram. It's the first thing you want to do when you get a sample of stars, right? So in this case, we're just saying plot from that matplotlib function, remember, or library. We want to plot the R magnitude from that data frame that we made minus the I magnitude, so R minus I, and then on the y-axis, the G magnitude, and then the rest is just making the plot look nicer. And when we do that, we see the diagram looks like this, which may actually raise some questions in your mind. I think it even says it in the notebook here. Like, why are the colors quantized in these vertical stripes? That will leave as a discussion item for another time. But anyway, now you know how to plot a color magnitude diagram. Definitely you can ask about why are the colors quantized during this week. So there are a couple other, there's another demonstration here, but quickly before we get to Douglas's demo, I wanted to show you an image. There are two types of images that you'll mostly interact with. One is a calibrated exposure. That's just a single image, from a single visit in a single filter. And then there are deep coads, which are the stacks of a bunch of visits overlapping the same region of sky to create a deep coadded image. The coad images you'll hear referred to in spatial units called tracts and patches. So, a tract is think of it just as a tract is a pretty big region on the sky. A patch is the subunit of that big region that is basically of a size that you can reasonably load that image into your computer's memory and work with it. So if you want to get a coad, you'll always need to know the tract and patch, and we'll show you how to find that out. The other thing that you'll need for this is the butler. We have 2 tutorials on the butler coming up this week and available to you, I guess, in the tutorial repository. But basically, the butler is a service that just makes it so you don't ever have to know about file names or paths or what type of file something is or anything like that. You can just tell the butler, hey, I want a deep coad image, and it does all of the work under the hood for you and returns the image that you want. And so basically what we do here is we just instantiate an instance of the butler pointing at the collection that contains all the data preview 0.2 data. Then we are just going to retrieve a deep coad image. So we pick a right ascension and declination coordinate, carefully chosen for reasons that you'll see soon. We turn them into an object that the LSST science pipelines understands. So we turn them into this, what's called a sphere point object, which basically just has units that the pipelines will understand. So, okay, there are our coordinates. And then what we do here is we initialize what's called the sky map, the thing that defines all of the tracts and patches. We initialize that, and then we use these methods associated with it to find the tract and the patch that correspond to that coordinate that we want. And then when after we do that, we print the tract and patch here. And you see you get tract 4431, patch 17. So now we have the information we need to get the image. We have to tell the butler this tract and this patch and the filter are enough to define uniquely a data ID that can retrieve this deep coad. So we put in here the tract and the patch, and then you see we want the I band image, the I filter. And then we just say, okay, butler.get, we want a data set type of coad, and then we give it this data ID. And that's all we need to know to get that image. You'll see it takes a second. Here we go. So now we have a deep coad image. Let's look at it. There's a science pipelines package called AFW display. Again, you'll hear more about it in other tutorials, but basically we can point it, we can say we wanted to use that matplotlib plotting library to display things. And then we just go and we just initiate the display here with AFW display. We set some of the scaling of the image, and then the key here is this function, AFW display.mtv, that tells it to display this image. And voila, we have a beautiful image with a beautiful galaxy cluster in it. So I know that was a whirlwind, but there's more detail about all of this in other tutorials. So was meant to be a quick intro. And of course, if you want to learn more about AFW display, there are some tips here, but I'll stop here and see if anyone has any questions that they wanted to bring up.
Jeff, you have a couple of questions from Slack and Zoom. I can read them.
Excellent.
So the first is, are kernels other than Python available on the RSP from Fed?
Yeah, and I think the answer is not now, but possibly in the future. But I don't know if, I've never heard Frosty fully commit to that, but I've heard her say she might like to do it someday.
And the other one is on Slack from Juan Pablo Carvajal. And the question is, does the extendedness flag associate very distant galaxies to point sources?
Yeah, the extendedness flag is basically it takes the model flux, it's the C model if you're familiar with that, which is a galaxy model flux, and compares it to the PSF flux. And basically it says, you know, if they're point sources, those two things should agree. If there's a more than, I think it's a 1.5% difference between the fluxes, then it must be an extended object. So it must be a galaxy. And so basically that extendedness just says it equals 1 if it's extended based on that criterion, and 0 meaning not extended if it looked point-like. It's just a binary flag. Any more questions before we move on? Let's, I took too long, didn't I? It means Douglas has to talk really, really, really fast. No, I think it's okay. We're not really crushed for time today, so I think we're okay.
Right. Well.
Oh, thanks, Douglas. That was great.
Okay, so I practiced a bit, reviewed my notebook 6B earlier today, and with Tina's help, and we discovered it takes about an hour and a half to do it completely. But we also decided at the end there's a way to basically punt, just basically get most of it done in about 15 minutes. And I'm going to go that second route. So first, let me share a screen. Okay. All right. And I'm going to move this off. Well, let me move it off. No, it won't let me move it off. Okay, anyway. Okay, where's okay. So okay, so this you can find this notebook in oh yeah, I do that way. You can find this notebook in this tutorial in your notebooks directory under tutorial notebooks, and it's 6B. I didn't want to do stuff in that directory, so I made a separate directory. I basically copied it all over, sort of like what Jeff did, except Jeff was copying a notebook at a time. I just copied the whole thing, and I went to 6B interactive catalog. Now this catalog, this notebook is one of the most notebooks require just a medium-sized container when you log on and start your server. This is one where you might want to use a large container size because of the amount of data that are being used. Oh, let's see. I wanted to add in chat. Okay. There's a little trick I learned from Jeff that Jeff learned from someone else. I'd say just don't worry about it right now. But if you want to know those for the future, if you want to restart your server very quickly, I've added a link where you can go to just stop your present server and restart it. It's basically data.lsst.cloud/nb/hub/home. And when you're doing your notebooks, you have most of that there up to NB. You just remove the rest, type in hub/home, and it leads you up to a page where you can stop your current server and start a new one and adjust it. I'm gonna move this chat out of the way too. And okay, this is just what I'm going to show you here is I'm not doing it now because I don't want to mess up anything, but this is a screenshot of the server options. And basically, for this particular one, you'd probably want to use the large server option, then you'd start it. All right. So, what is this notebook about? Well, generically, most Python plotting and visualization environments focus on a standard library, matplotlib, and that's a good library. It has many different things, but there are other libraries, and here we kind of focus on a few which permit interacting with the plot. So it's not just a static plot, but you can zoom in on things and select things in real time and have maybe multiple plots plotted where you kind of click on a point in one plot and you see where it shows up in other plots. So you're plotting array and dec on one plot, and a color magnitude diagram and a color diagram in the other plots. You click one and it'll show up where it is in the other ones. So and another thing that's also shows, and we saw a little bit and then also, I mean, matplotlib also can do this with, say, with 2D histograms or density plots, and we saw a little bit of that in Jeff's presentation just now when we plotted the color magnitude diagram without the quantized star locations in G versus G minus R. But you have a little more dynamic range with something called data shader, which deals with when you plot a whole bunch of points on a page, and they end up as being like one big blob in the middle. But data shader lets you zoom in and out, and as you zoom in and out, it updates the binning procedure. So so when you're really zoomed way out, you'll see everything. It bins things a certain way, and as you zoom in and you have fewer points in your field of view, it bins things differently just to optimize how things look, and it's very nice. And there's another kind of interesting aspect here is here we're doing everything in the notebook. What if you wanted to share an interactive plot with a colleague? So there's actually also a way of, for many of these, not all, of saving your result as an interactive HTML file. So you can like post it on the web, and they can go to that web page and do all the interactive stuff that you did on your notebook for that on that web page. It's nice for disseminating information. It's not perfect because it really only downloads things which are easily done in JavaScript. It outputs a JavaScript thing into your HTML, which allows you to do these interactive things. And it requires much more processing power, stuff that would be done like in the Python layer here. That doesn't show up. So but it's still pretty good. But so why don't we move on, and we'll just do it very briefly. I just want to mention we're using Bokeh, HoloViews, and Data Shader. HoloViews is kind of like the wrapper around everything it uses. Basically, here we're basically creates the the formatting area where you do everything, or you don't do other stuff with the bokeh. And data shader is basically, as I said, it's more like, it's sort of like a two-dimensional binning, a dynamic binning, rebinning code. I will not go through all these details because there's just not enough time, but I will. Okay, oops. We'll just kind of zoom through here. Well, we will read in the general package imports. There's general ones, AstroPi ones. They'll access a tap service from LSST. There's various bokeh modules, HoloViews, and data shader. Okay. Sometimes it's interesting to know what version you're using, especially if you run into a problem, you need to query the documentation. This stuff here is not, that's just a limit number of rows when you do a pandas output. Here we create a HoloViews extension, a HoloViews object using the bokeh extension, and we tell it to output to the notebook as opposed to like a file. Here are a couple of things which are basically deal with a bug in bokeh, which I'll let you read on your own later on. It's basically when you switch back and forth to outputting to the screen versus outputting to an HTML file. There's a little, it can get finicky, and this is a solution that was available, that was mentioned on the GitHub site issues for bokeh and how to get around that finickiness. Okay, let's grab some data first. We'll just grab some stuff. We'll open up the tap server. We'll grab a piece of sky, which will look familiar. It's basically that cluster that Jeff showed us a little bit earlier. 1 degree radius area around that cluster. We create a query, which ADQL query, which basically is composed of selecting what columns or process columns you want from a given table. In this case, the object table. It could be from multiple tables too, and then constraints. So we want basically that one area sky, that area sky with the 1 degree radius. We want to use that detect is primary equals 1 that Jeff mentioned in the previous thing, and we want to restrict things to which have a R band magnitude using the C model magnitudes. Won't go into that, of less than 27. And we don't mind it. We like things which are either extended or not extended. We don't like things which the extendedness measurement failed. So we don't want anything which is so we don't want anything that's null, as a null extendedness in R band. Let's see. We run that. Oh, let's see. And this is what the query looks like. It's a large data set, so we'll use an asynchronous query. So we create the job, we run the job, and then we tell the cell wait until that job is either completed or ends in an error. This has been taking like about a minute. So this is actually like a convenient point to ask, are there any questions at this point? I know I'm going very quickly, but. All right, well, this may only be another 10 seconds to a minute, a half a minute. After that, this next set will also take a little bit of time. Oh, it's finished. It took 39 seconds. Here we'll fetch the results, convert it to an AstroPi table on the fly, and then directly to a pandas data frame. And so let's enter that. And this will also this takes about a minute also. And since this has been run before, we know that there are 1,345,701 objects, but we would like to assert that we got that same number. So this is still running while that's running. And then after that, we will take so actually, oh, it's finished running. Okay, we'll show, okay, it's that size, and then we assert, okay, it's size. I'm going to add just very briefly, just to show you, I'll show you the first 5 lines of this data frame. Let's see, I guess I can close that for the moment. So as the coordinate, the coordinates in array and deck, it has a running ID number, the array and deck, the object ID, which is an int long, but Bokeh doesn't like that. So later on, we'll turn that into a string. The extendedness parameter, which is either a 0 for a point source or a 1 for something that's extended. And the magnitude, the G, R, and I magnitudes is in the C model magnitude prescription. But then we can add in colors. We can calculate G minus I, R minus I, and G minus R. We can also map the extendedness parameter from the zeros to points and the ones to extended, and that's what we do here. I mentioned we have to convert object ID to a string. We can do because Bokeh kind of curls up and dies if you don't do that, because they're very because it doesn't know how to deal with such long integers. I will just also add in another point here for, let's see what the data, let's see what this looks like now, the table looks like now. Same thing. Oops, don't want to see that. Okay, so it's same thing, but it also has G minus I, R minus I, G minus R, and the shape that we just did before. Okay. I will leave these for you to do on your own, but you can see how many, so this is run before, so we know how many point sources there are and extended sources there are. There should be about, there's slightly over 200,000 point sources and about 1.1 million extended sources in this area. Okay, for the next few steps, we'll just we'll look at about 2% of the data. This ends up being about 27,000 objects. So I'll just run through these quickly. We have 26,900. So plots. Okay, let's do first a single plot with the HoloView scatter plot. And you get a nice blob. This is an array and deck. If you don't tell the HoloView scatter function what columns to use, it uses the first 2 columns, which in this case happen to be array and deck. Okay, that doesn't look so interesting. Let's actually look at let's create a histogram. We can do that using NumPy, the NumPy histogram routine, and then feeding that into the HoloView's histogram function with various options to give the title, the color, and the labels and font size and so on. This just creates the plot. Doesn't actually plot it until you actually type this, and you get this nifty plot. Now this is actually an interactive plot. So right now I'll take so right now it's here. You can do a zoom using your if you have a mouse with a scroll wheel, you can zoom in, you can zoom out. You can also the pan feature is also activated. You can pan this way, you can pan that way. You can select an area. And hello, Larry. Go away, Larry. And then after all, and oh, if you want to, you can save the image. But well, let's go back to what, and if you want to reset to what it looked like at the beginning, there's a reset tool. All right, let's move on. You can also have multiple plots. Here, we will create a scatter plot with various options, and then we'll add it to the previous RA distribution plot. And then you can plot those together and you get this. So these are not linked, but you can still zoom in and out or pan, or pan, and you can do the same thing with this one independently. Another thing you notice here is that it also has this hover over feature, and you can see the ARIA depth for each of those objects. And if you zoom back really low, oh, okay, it's not okay. It gives the ARIA depth there. Okay, let's just move on. Okay, okay, a brief interlude here. I'm going through these very quickly. I am not a bokeh or HoloView or data shader guru. I'm kind of a newbie myself, but the great thing about this notebook is those who wrote this did a great job. You can grab the information pretty quickly and just make your own slight modifications to do your own plot. So that's why I'm not only due to the lack of time, but also just the fact that the idea is if you just see what's possible, you could just go and copy from this notebook if you want to plot different things, and you can do a lot just from there without even knowing too much about this. Okay, let's see. Here we're going to link some plots, so you can do something in one plot and see it in the other plot. I'm not gonna. I'll just skip over this a bit. We're going to continue using the bokeh plot style, but you can also do a matplotlib style if you wanted. Okay, so here we have a scatter plot. We're creating out of those 29,000 objects. Let's see, once again, so once again, you can zoom in and zoom out, and it has a little bit of that transparency thing where you can sort of see, even though it's dense and a blob, you can sort of see structure, maybe not great, but you can see some structure. And you can always like select a region using this little magnifying glass thing, and you can always return to what it looked like before. We'll use this later on. You can also okay, here we'll add, or we're basically going to add a color diagram here. Let's see, so we have points and a histogram, and okay, this is nice. This is really, maybe I should make this a little smaller so I can see it all in one frame. So this is nice. You have a scatter plot and the 1 degree histograms along each axis. And you can also you can zoom in, and it zooms in not only in the scatter plot but the histograms. Or you can select an area. Let's see, I'm not sure what that does. Maybe it does that. What does that do? I forgot what that does, but one can investigate on their own on one's own later. Okay, let's continue on. Okay, in Jupyter notebooks or IPython notebooks, there's something called magics, which are basically command line options, which are pre-printed by 2% signs. Here's the ops magic, which kind of filters, creates an option for a scatter plot. So you can create, so you can throw in the ops for the scatter function here, and then this is not so exciting, but just want to mention it. And then you can also edit what you, okay. So if you do this, you get this big thing, and you get this blob, and let's see, let's zoom in on a single point. This gives all the columns from that pandas data frame, but maybe you don't want all the columns from the pandas data frame. You want to edit it slightly. Well, you can also edit the hover tool, where you put your cursor over a point, and you can modify what is output. So we can, here we're going to update that and plot it again, hopefully. Okay, here we go. And now let's see, let's zoom in and find a single object. So now, instead of everything, we decide to have R index on one row, the R band magnitude, and what its extended is. Okay, let's go back to Bokeh. Bokeh has also a nice feature in which you can link the data from one plot to the data in another linked plot. I will not go into too much detail of this because of time. I just want to kind of show you what you can do. You can always come back here and mine this notebook for stuff. But here we basically kind of set up what's called a column data source. You can set it up, but you can also add additional columns to this column data source object after the fact. If you decide, oh, I forgot to add that column. Here we create a column data source view, and we decide only to choose point sources, not the extended sources here. And then we link the plot. We create two plots with a hover tool for the left plot and one for the right-hand plot, with various tools that we decide here. And then we actually create the plot, and then we plot it in a grid of a 1x2 grid. So it's two plots side by side. And it's thinking about it. Okay, so here you have this plot, and it's interesting. If you look here, you can overplot one object, and if you look closely in the middle of the plot, the same object is highlighted in red or magenta or dark or burgundy, I guess. I'm not sure. Can people see that? It's a little bit above the center of the left-hand plot.
Right there.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. Thanks, Tina.
Yeah.
Let's see. Can I find it again? There it is. Yeah. And Tina, if you can circle that again. Yep. All right. You can do other interesting things like let's grab. You might wonder, are all these things in just one part of that plot? So you can just kind of do that. That did not do what I was expecting. We ran into this problem earlier. Maybe that was not okay. Maybe I want to do that. We'll grab that. Oh yeah. Oh, so yeah. So let's go back to the beginning. Let's use this, and we'll say, what are these? Let's see. Let's grab these, and it shows where they are in the other plot. On the other hand, you could also go here and imagine. Let's say you see a density concentration here. You think maybe it's a star cluster. There isn't really one here, but let's say there was something there, and then you can overplot the points here on. You can see where those points are on this plot. Okay, okay, well, let's continue on. I mentioned, also output this to a interactive HTML file. This is set up so it'll output it to your main directory, your home directory, a file called mb06b_plot1. So we just set up, that's just setting up where we're going to output it. And then this will then actually create it. And if we come over here, go to your home directory and look down here, there it is. It was created seconds ago. I say, let's take a look at that. So you can double click here and there's nothing there. What's happening? So you see, oh, wait, press HTML. There it is. And this is an HTML file. It's just an HTML file. You can put it on a web page, and it does the same thing. It's all the same. You can do basically everything here as you did in the notebook. And I don't know. Grab those guys and see where those are. Yeah, and that's all. It's all. So it's an interactive plot that you could have on a web page. That's very nice. Okay, let's go back here. Let's go back to here. Let's see. Okay, here's another thing. What if you had some data and you a plot and you wanted to like calculate let's say you have RA's index and you wanted to calculate an aggregate function of objects in some selected region, or say the mean RA and mean dec of a selected region of objects, or their standard deviation or something like that. You can do that here too. So we will look at points. This is a little function to calculate the mean of objects that are selected when you do a selection, and then you can open up a file. And okay, so here is the RA and dec, or delta RA, delta dec, and there's nothing here, but we want to say maybe can zoom in, maybe pan over some, oops. Okay, this is fine. And let's say we wanted to select some things over, we can do a lasso select. And you see it repeats it over here on the right hand side. And it calculates on the fly, it calculates the mean X, the mean Y. And it gives you the values. There may be various applications you might want to do with that. Maybe with colors, star colors, or in the different filter bands. Let's see, and you can also then print out of those that you got selected, how many are selected, and there's 76 points in that. Okay, let's move on to the final piece, the data shader. So this is for dealing with large sets of data. So first, this is more or less what we had been doing, using a bokeh to plot lots of individual points. And we can plot that. And this is what we get. It's plots that shows the points and the extended sources. It uses a certain transparency, so you can sort of see denser regions, or it's not too badly saturated in the middle, but it's not, I mean, and you can, let's see, and you can, oops, you can zoom in and out and get some idea. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good, especially for a few thousand points. Let's see. Hollow views and data shader allows to plot millions to billions of points And it kind of re-rasterizes or re-bins things as you zoom in and out. So we'll first of all, create a new hollow views thing to hold points. G minus R minus I. And we will create what they call a linked streams instance. Don't ask me what that is right offhand because I don't remember. And then we will create a dynamic plot, and then we'll output it to the screen. And here is what it looks like. It's you can tell these are like, this is still like the 20,000 or so points, but it's bin things. So when you're looking out here for things outside, which single points are just single points, but things where it's really dense, it does some binning, so you can trace out features better. And as you zoom in, it adjusts the binning. So that is looking interesting. Let's do it for all 1.3 million objects that we've been kind of ignoring to this point after when we first download up 1.3 million objects. Well, we can take a look at those now. And there it is. It's nice. So you can see that's basically points in the periphery where there's not too much. And in the center, it's been it's basically a 2D histogram, which has been optimized for this amount of data. And as you zoom in, it rebins things as you get in. You can see structure, and you can sort of let's zoom out just a little bit. You can see here's the G minus R minus I stellar locus is this with those quantized M stars that we saw in the plot that Jeff showed earlier. And then I think, let's see, I think these are, well, actually, Bob can tell us what some of these things are. He's been working on this, but there's, I think these are like Redshift 2 quasars. This is a bridge of white dwarfs and main sequence stars, which are not resolved into two individual points. You also get like down here carbon stars and so on. Let's see. We could add a callback function. So you need to, let's see. Let's say you select, okay, let's select something from here. Let's select one of these quantized regions. Then we can come here and we can grab the things from that selection. And it says there's a little over 3,000 points in that box. Let's do interactive selection. I won't go into details. We're still using the data shader here. I just wanted to show you what we do, what happens. Let's see, create a couple extra functions here, and then we can plot things. And okay, all right. So here's another plot. Here we have the ARIA deck plot that we saw before, and we have a R-band histogram for all the objects here. You might want to, let's zoom in. And maybe you're curious about the histogram of, let's see, let's select these, select a box of these. And it just does the histogram for those. And then finally, let's just delete the tap server job and leave the rest to the interested student. So yeah, sorry, I did kind of continue for a little longer than I was planning, but yeah, I think it's a pretty reasonable overview. And I've for some of my Rubin project stuff, I've stolen some of these things and use them for other stuff. And it's really just nice. Initially, just steal something, adjust things a little bit, and you learn a bit more. And then once you learn more, you might want to look further into the documentation. But you can do a lot even just with just the things they have here. And so that's it.
I know we went from like super introductory to fairly advanced pretty quickly. But does anyone have questions? I think, like Douglas was saying, I totally encourage people to borrow from this, and you'll gradually learn. That's yes. What they're for. You're yes. welcome to steal this notebook.
Yes.
And so we didn't stick perfectly to schedule, but that's totally fine, because today, as every day this week, we've added, or at the end of the session, we have time for collaborative breakout sessions. Our plan is for you all to think about what you're interested in learning more about or exploring, or even just a small science exploration project that you're interested in. Think about what that might be, and hopefully some others in this group will be interested in working together on that. And then in the breakouts, we can like-minded folks can get together and work on small projects to explore together, learn together and from each other. So I will suggest that we take just a break until the bottom of the hour. So just till 8:30, or sorry, till it's 24 after the hour now. So we'll go until 30 after, and then we'll come back and just introduce ourselves to each other, and then get started on sort of thinking about ideas of explorations that you might want to work on as the week goes on. So see you all in about 5 minutes at 30 past the hour.